Hi, boys and girls. This is Ms. Kathy. I'm so happy you've joined me today for another story just for you. Chapter 6, Snakes and Bears. The shoebox kids were very hungry at breakfast the next morning. Maria kept looking at her brother while they ate. What am I going to do about Chris, she thought. Suddenly, Bonzo bounded out of the woods carrying a small branch. He hesitated a moment before running up to Jake. Get away with you! I'm eating, can't you see? Chris stuffed the last of his pancakes into his mouth and jumped up. Here, Bonzo! Here, boy! I'll throw it for you. Me too! Dee jumped to her feet. While Dee and Chris took turns throwing the branch for Bonzo, the others finished breakfast and helped with cleanup. As they packed the last storage box on the raft, Tony stepped into the clearing. She had a long, flat, very thin something hanging from her hands. What's that? Sammy asked. It looks like the skin of a snake. It is, Tony said, holding it up. You kids asked so many questions last night that I thought you'd like to see this. Ooh, that's long, Jenny said. Is that the kind of snake you were telling us about? Willie asked. Mm-hmm, Tony replied. It's the northern Pacific rattlesnake. Here, you can feel it, and take a good look at the colors and design in case you meet one of his relatives. Maria slowly reached out her hand and touched the skin. It's rough, isn't it? Willie felt the skin, looking closely at the pattern. Look at those big spots, he said to Sammy. They're sort of like big brown diamonds. I'm sure it was hard to see when it was on the ground. It's disguised well, isn't it? Tony began rolling it up. Its skin is the color of the dirt, and the diamond spots could look like rocks. Maybe I'll be able to find a dead rattler, Chris said, looking thoughtful. Then I could have a snake skin, too. No way, Jake said, shaking his head. Jake's right, Tony added. Snakes have been known to bite even when they were cut into pieces. Really? Dee didn't believe that. Really, Jake said firmly. So don't go near them critters, not unless you got somebody like Tony with you. Hey, look, Willie said, pointing to the tail of the snakeskin just as Tony finished rolling it up. It's got rings on its tail like a raccoon. When Tony was finished showing the snakeskin, everyone but Maria scattered to do other things. What's wrong, Maria? Tony asked. You look awfully sad. Can I trust Tony? Maria thought. I have to talk to someone. Oh, Tony, I don't know what to do. I think Chris told my parents lies about me to get me into trouble, and I think he's telling all my friends bad things about me, too. I found part of a note he wrote. Maria fished a wrinkled piece of paper out of her pocket and handed it to Tony. Read that. Tony read, I fixed Maria. There's a piece of the note missing, Maria. I know, but read the rest. Tony continued. I told Mom and Dad. Tony frowned. I don't know if this is proof of anything bad, Maria. Has Chris ever lied about you before? No, Maria shook her head, but that doesn't mean anything. I knew no one would believe me, not even you. Maria took back the note and walked away. Soon Jake called to the kids gathered around Tony. All aboard for Rattlesnake River. He sounded like a railroad conductor. Next stop, Pebble Beach. So come get your fancy duds on. The kids said goodbye to Tony and Bonzo and ran to the raft. They wiggled into their rubber wetsuits and pulled on their helmets and life jackets. Soon they were all settled and ready for another day on the river. Just before they stopped for lunch a few hours later, Jeff steered their raft into a large, quiet pool. The kids looked at him with questions in their eyes. Jeff smiled and pointed. Bear, he said softly. The kids gasped as they saw a black bear helping himself to the berries near the shore. Maria felt a little shiver run down her back. None of them dared to say a word as the raft floated about 20 feet from the shore. Once the bear paused to look at them, but he went right back to eating. Back on the river, the kids chattered like magpies. Did you see that? A real bear, Chris exclaimed. He was kind of cute, Jenny added. I wish I could have petted him, Dee said. Jake snorted. Humph! If you want to pet him, be sure to say goodbye to your arm first. Wow! Was all Sammy could say. A smile stretched almost to both ears. Well, did he look like Bonzo? Jake asked. At first I thought so, Willie replied. Yeah, but his nose is longer, Chris added. Bonzo's is sort of squished in. And Bonzo's legs are longer, aren't they? Dee asked. And Bonzo has a tail, Sammy said. Oh, that bear's got a tail, all right, Jake told him. It's just a mite shorter than that flag Bonzo waves around. Does Bonzo eat blackberries? Maria asked. Bonzo will eat most anything, but he doesn't like to pick them. Okay, hang on. We've got us one more rapids before we eat lunch. The raft suddenly picked up speed, rocked a few times, then whirled into the white water. "Pebble Beach, straight ahead," Jeff called out above the noise of the rapids. A minute later, as the river turned, he steered the raft straight onto the beach. I'm going to do that one more time because I wasn't... A minute later, as the river turned, he steered the raft straight onto the beach. As Chris climbed out of the raft, he said, "Why is it called Pebble Beach?" "Oh!" Jake laughed. "Yeah, too many pebbles to be called Sandy Beach." Maria crunched across the beach and dropped her load on a large flat rock Jake said they would use for a table. Then she wandered to the edge of the clearing and sat on a big log. "What am I going to do about Chris?" she said to herself. "He still acts as if everything is fine." She stared at the river, but she didn't really see it. Her thoughts were all mixed up. After a while, a tear rolled out of each eye. "What will I do? What kind of trouble will I be in when I get home? I didn't do anything. What a rotten birthday I'll have." Maria decided to pray. Bowing her head and closing her eyes, she said, "Dear Jesus, please help me not to think bad things about Chris. Help me not to worry." She opened her eyes when she heard footsteps. "Here, have a banana." Maria turned to find Dee Dee standing behind the log holding out a banana. "I'm not hungry." "Maybe it will help you feel better." Dee Dee put the banana into Maria's hand. Maria peeled the banana and took a bite. "What do you think Chris told Dad about me?" Maria's voice broke on the last word. "Huh? You say Chris lied about you, but you don't even know what he said? Sounds strange to me." "But I know he told Dad something about me. I just didn't hear all of it." Dee Dee looked at Maria, her eyebrows raised. "What should I do?" Maria asked. "Ask Chris. Have you tried just talking to him?"
The story you have heard today is a chapter of the Shoebox Kids, Book 11, Rattlesnake River Adventure, written by Sandy Zogg, edited and created by Jerry D. Thomas, and used with permission from the Pacific Press Publishing Association. If you're interested in any other books published by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, please visit AdventistBookCenter.com or call 1-800-765-6955.
This podcast is a production of the Carolina Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.